Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. Today officially marks 50 episodes. I am honestly really excited. I didn't know if we'd be able to get this far. Just, podcasting is sometimes difficult, even though it's one of those things that I really, really love and I really enjoy doing. It's a lot of time, and I just appreciate everyone who takes the time out of their day to listen and give the podcast some love, however it is that you do that. It really means a lot, and I really appreciate everyone who just even if you just like quietly listen, I still appreciate you, and I just want to take some time to thank you all for supporting this podcast and getting us to 50 episodes now. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where this will go in the future and how many more episodes we can do in the future. And yeah, I have no signs or no plans of ever stopping. So I really appreciate everybody who's stuck around and hung out and shared these episodes with their friends and found something new you liked. So thank you guys so much for listening in. Not to get too sappy, but I'm just a little reflective now. But we are finally starting to settle into the new home now. So streams are going to be picking back up. So if you want to join me over on twitch.tv/barelybookish, I stream over there. And I don't really have a set schedule yet, but I will be streaming a lot more now that I am kind of like settling into my new home. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, we don't really have a lot of big plans. The last Patreon episode that just went up was our Heartless episode with YA Book Chat. So that was a lot of fun. So if you haven't checked that out yet, please do. I think you guys would really enjoy it because it was a lot of fun to record. And I really like Marissa Meyer's style of writing, so I think you guys will like that a lot as well. Especially if you like the Lunar Chronicles. The Heartless episode, the Heartless book as a whole is it's not a spin-off of the Lunar Chronicles, but it's written in the same style, if that makes sense. Like, it's a retelling of a fairy tale. So it's, I don't know, it's not like the Lunar Chronicles, but if you like the Lunar Chronicles, I think you'll like this, if that makes sense. But, you can listen to me talking about that over on Patreon if you are interested. Also, being a Patreon member, whichever tier you join, you do get the episodes 2 days early. So if that's something you're interested in, that is happening now officially with this book. Plus, it helps support the podcast. So if you wouldn't mind contributing, I would really, really appreciate it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. Hello everyone, and we are back reading more of the Iliad. I am once again joined by Jade.
Diagwich, that's hello in Irish.
Oh, true. Oh my goodness, I love other different greetings. You know what I mean? Like I love hearing people's.
Yeah.
Is it?
I
Okay.
say Diagwich and you say Diasmergwich. So Diagwich means like God be with you, and then Diasmergwich, I think that means like God and Mary be with you. It's very Catholic. But
isn't that kind of summing up Irish culture? That's very Catholic.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, and I wonder because I've never actually been able to ask someone this personally. Do you know, is Irish, I've heard multiple things, so that's why I'm curious. Is Irish a language or is it slang of English? Do you know?
Oh, Irish is like 100% a language, yeah.
Okay, it is its own?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Like there's like Irish. Yeah, Irish is like a whole language.
Okay.
Then you obviously have like Irish slang, which is like English language, but like Irish slang. If you get me. Like like I don't know anybody that does say it, but someone says like, oh, like you dig it or whatever. Like that means like, do you get it? Which comes from like digum, the Irish verb to like understand something.
Yeah. Okay.
but no one really says that. But that's what I mean. There's some like Irish or like what's the crack? That would be like Irish slang. So it's like, yeah, it's like said in English too. But yeah,
I think that's so funny. Like when you have slang that definitely sounds like something it doesn't mean. Like I remember when I was learning French and they were talking about like French, not necessarily slang, but like sayings. So there was something like, you know how we say like cat's got your tongue in English?
yeah, yeah.
They said something about like frog in your throat or something like that. And like you think it's funny, but then you're like, cat's got your tongue is very strange. Like that's a weird thing to say if you had no basis of understanding, because you'd be like, why does a cat hold your tongue? You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
I wish I was better with language, because that would be a second podcast, is me breaking down weird things that I think are interesting, but I'm not very good with languages.
So yeah, Irish is like its own full language before the English like
Okay.
invaded, but then you also have like Irish slang, which is like, well, like what's the crack? Crack is an Irish word for fun, but you know what I mean? There's like Irish spins on like on English words.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people say the Irish language is called Gaelic, which is totally wrong. Because you just say Irish language.
Mm.
Gaelic is like our culture, if you get me, like Gaelic football, Gaelic
Yeah.
music, Celtic music, that type of thing.
Okay.
Anyway,
I wish I knew more about Ireland. I don't really know anything about my ancestors at all, and that's something I kind of regret as an adult. Because like most of my ancestors are from Czechoslovakia before it became like Czech Republic, and it's
yeah.
like that's something I wish I knew more about. Like I don't know anything about uh, Czech history or anything like that, and I know we're kind of like a
Yeah.
white European melting pot. So like most recently they were from the Czech Republic. My great grandmother migrated from, not migrated, immigrated. She's not a bird. To to America from the Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia, and then but like we're all from like Hungary, and I think we're from Ireland as well. We're like a big melting pot, like if you did our DNA thing. So it's just kind of like I wish I knew more about like the history and the culture. Like it's
Yeah,
not too late to learn, but just one of those things.
that's definitely an American thing as well, I think. Like nobody in Ireland would be like, oh yeah, like I'm from like Ireland, England, America, you know what I mean? Don't name off. But I feel like Americans a lot of the time like name like a lot of different countries as like part of their like ancestry. Whereas like people in Ireland are like, yeah, I was born in Ireland, so I'm Irish, or like, oh yeah, my dad's half English, so I'm half English. But like no one ever be like, my great granny was from here and my great 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 grandfather was from here, so I'm like 1/10 Italian or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a very like American
yeah.
thing.
I feel like there's a need in American culture to kind of find our culture in other places, because we don't have a rich history here, because it's basically just a colonized country.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing that feels distinctly American. Whereas like in Ireland, it has generations upon generations upon generations of history. So it's like you feel like you belong by being there and by having family there and like understanding that culture and being raised in that, but without that like sense of like
That's a
unity.
good point.
I feel like there's more of us are like, oh, but like where's our family from? Like what's our history kind of thing. That's just my interpretation though. I don't know.
That makes a lot of sense. I never heard it like explained that way. You know, I just thought it was more like Americans trying to sound like exotic or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh
don't
yeah.
associate me with Americans, okay? I'm like 1/10 Italian, you know?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I'm
Honestly.
different. I'm not like other Americans.
So book 13. So Neptune is going to get on the fight. He's like, I'm going to help with the Achaeans, and he's like, Jove can't control me. We're gonna get the Achaeans to win.
It's really cool because it says he has like seahorses, like a seahorse chariot, and he like parks them in a little sea cave, and then he like, just walks up the beach. And I imagine it all like Baywatch style, just him like walking up the beach
You
out of the
got
water.
seahorses in a chariot? I didn't get seahorses in a chariot unless I missed it. I'm sad.
You probably missed it because as we still sturdy, your eyes kind of just glaze over the page.
I hope I just
It'd be
missed
easy to
it.
miss little details.
I know. I hope I just missed it because I did not catch that part at all because that sounds killer. That sounds awesome.
It reminded me of like the King Neptune from SpongeBob, you know. I was just imagining him the whole time.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Love a good SpongeBob reference. So then he takes form and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go inspire the Achaeans. My favorite thing is that they always say that they're gonna inspire instead of like actually battle.
Possess them.
I know.
It's like, yeah, it's like you possess their bodies to want them to like fight war.
I'm just imagining that he hosts like a TED talk, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
he's like, you're going to be a businessman. You're going to be a businessman. You're going to defeat the Trojans. You know what I mean? I
I
think it's
imagine it
funny.
like a locker scene, like a like locker room scene in a movie
Yes.
where they're all like, "Come on, guys, halftime, we got to do this!" Like,
They're like, I
they're
know
all
we're
so
down by 5 points. I don't know how football works, but 5 seems like a good number, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, I know we're down by 5 points, but all we need is insert number here, a field goals and
Just need to kill like 10,000 people and we'll be even. Come
yeah,
on,
there we
guys, you can
go.
do this.
That's only 2 men per each one of you, and you know what? We're 3 of them. So get out there, boys. Get out there, lads, and go to war. I should be paid to be a motivational speaker at this point.
Yeah.
So he first inspired. I didn't realize there was 2 Ajaxes until like this book. Okay, I don't know how I
Yeah, I didn't
glossed
either.
over.
I didn't know.
Okay,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that until right now. So,
okay, good. Because every time after this moment, they refer to them all the time as 2 Ajaxes, and they don't refer to them
yeah,
independently anymore.
yeah.
I like to think that he just
I just
cloned
thought it was the
himself.
same. Yeah, I just thought it was the same person for some reason.
Yeah, me
Because I'm like,
too.
there's already so many names. Like they have so many names. Why are they named the same person? The same thing, you know?
Yeah. Maybe it's one of the things is like we just didn't read who the parent was to realize that these were 2 different people the entire time.
Yeah, probably.
Oh well.
Continue.
Yeah, we don't come to this podcast for good notes. We come to it for fun notes, okay?
Exactly.
So the Achaeans were like, all right, Neptune. Then my favorite thing is they always know when a god comes and talks to them because it takes like a form of an old man. He just walks up to the king and then they're like, oh, hey, God, how are you today? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the gods coming down is like people. I can't remember what the word is. It's not like metamorphosis. It's like something I can't remember what it's called. But basically,
Mm-hmm.
gods becoming men and like using that disguise to like test people is like a big theme across like Greek
Mm-hmm.
mythology. And so that's why like in Greek culture, like this is kind of a side tangent, but it's still relevant. But that's why like in Greek culture, they're very like friendly and hospitable. They always want to take strangers in because there's like a belief that that could be like a god in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of the hospitality custom is called Xenia, and Xenia is like one of the big kind of pillars, I guess, of their like culture. So yeah. So
That's cool.
that's why they're always like so trusting of like these like supposedly like random people in the skies because they kind of know that it could be a god, and that's probably why they're so quick to like catch on.
Hmm. I like that idea. I mean, I think they tried to do that in Christianity a little bit, where they're like, "Oh, God could appear as anyone," and then like we all were kind of like, "No," and then like, but it seems to have worked a lot better in Greece and Rome, I guess.
It's kind of like not so much anymore, obviously, like nowadays, but like in Ireland, like especially in the rural areas, that was kind of the thing as well. Like people would just like have their doors open all the time. So anybody could just walk in and people would be very like welcoming to like strangers and stuff. Obviously not nowadays, but like, yeah, I guess it's just more common in the rural areas.
Do you see that YouTube video? A small tangent, where that guy was he he fell asleep on someone's couch and he woke up after a party and instead of going to his friend's house that's next door, he was just on some random person's couch and they like woke him up and they're like, you want a cigarette? I think it was in Ireland. That's what sticks in my head. I might be wrong though. I don't want to say that it was, but yeah, that might be wrong. But I just remember that was like a video. If I find it again, I'll send it to you. But it just like sticks in my head because I'm like, wow, like if that happened in America, the cops would be called.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Achaeans are back in their fight.
Yeah.
They're trying to hold fast because the Trojans are like, busting down that wall. And now we're back to war. Everybody's dying. All the gods are just. And my favorite thing is the imagery of the gods because they're like, yeah, they're just sitting on Mount Olympus watching. And so I'm imagining them sitting on like the steps. The steps of what is it? Have you seen the Rocky movie?
Yeah.
And you know how he like runs up all those steps? I'm
Yeah.
imagining that situation. And they're just sitting at the top looking down at all these steps and just like,
Yeah, it's a very like kind of like levels concept, like oh, they're up in the sky and they can look down, not or kind of like the spiritual kind of like I guess idea today where it's like, realms like overlapping, whatever. It's very much like they're up there, we're down here, and they can just like spy on us,
yeah. My favorite thing is imagining them with like opera goggles,
Yeah.
Like, wow, good one, Achilles. Oh, Hector really got them on that one. And they're like, wait, I didn't bring my goggles. Can I borrow yours for a second? And you're like, get your own. Go to the booth. Go buy your own. Okay, I'm using these right now. And then there's like fighting over, and it's like Hera's just like, I only bought 10, so you guys better share them.
Or they have those like 3D glasses,
Oh my goodness, yes. After opera was out, they upgraded to 3D goggles
Yeah.
or glasses. So good. So there's just lots of fighting, lots of injuries. It just lists at some point I just feel like I just need a death list. That's basically what this
Yeah.
book's become. So we're on to book 14, which is way more interesting in my opinion.
This is my favorite, I think, that we've read so far.
Me too.
Yeah.
I finally got blood rain in these section chapters, which is very exciting for me. I was like, yes, finally, the blood rain. So Nestor apparently has no idea what's going on. He's just like sitting inside the boat with his like kid, I guess, and his kid's like injured. So he was just like sitting in there taking care of him. He's like, wow, the battle's getting like kind of loud. Wow, it's getting even louder. This is so weird. I should probably go look at that. And he's like looks out and it's like right at the bottom of his like boat and they're inside the fence and he's like, So then he goes up to Agamemnon and he's like, hey, what's happening? And Agamemnon's like, yo, I think we should all leave. Like, I think it's time to cut our losses. And Ulysses basically, guns out, is like, how dare you even consider this, you weak-minded individual? And I was like, wow, okay.
That's very like, yeah, he's kind of presented as like the most manliest man ever, like especially in like the Odyssey, which is like his, main thing. So yeah, he's just
he comes for the throat in this one. I was like, wow, Ulysses, like chill out, please.
So they hear that the war has gotten really bad, so like, let's go look. So they like go over and just kind of observe the fight.
Yeah. So like everyone, that's all going on. And Agamemnon says, hey, if y'all have any better ideas, I am all ears. I have no idea what to do. So then we get to all the gods, which is my favorite part. So Neptune takes the form of an old man and starts talking to Agamemnon first. And he's like, listen, we got to do this. You guys are doing great. Let's mess everybody up. Then we get to the view of the gods. So Juno sees that Neptune is fighting for the Achaeans and it's like, yes, perfect, because she wants the Achaeans to win.
Yeah. And she wants to like distract Zeus. So she's like, I'm gonna distract him with my feminine powers of my seductive powers.
Yes.
So then she kind of goes to Aphrodite and she's like, oh, like, can I borrow your what is it? She's like, can I borrow your loveliness and desirability? It's kind of as if it's like, oh, hey girl, I can go on a date. Can I borrow that top or that perfume?
You know what they said in mine? They asked to borrow that. And like, first of all, they had an entire like description, like paragraph description of her getting dressed, her putting earrings in, putting on this beautiful cloak that Minerva made her, like this whole large description. And then says that she puts on a girdle. And I was like, okay. And
they
then
they had to kind of like, they had to kind of make a big deal of the dressing thing,
Mhm.
because this was as close like as Greek men got to like smut, you know what I
I
mean?
know. Yes, truly.
So they were living for this. So there's
Yeah,
probably so much detail in the parts about her getting ready for this,
I
like,
know.
seductive, I guess,
I
event.
know. This is like the only like true detail we get about a character, and it's just her getting dressed, and I think it's funny. But my favorite thing is in my book, it says that um Venus
Mhm.
in mine instead of Aphrodite gives her a girdle that she then puts in her bosom, and that's how she gets Aphrodite's power. And I was
Hmm.
like, I'm gonna be honest. I think his name's Steven, my translator. I don't think he knows what a girdle is.
Yeah, isn't that like for your like lower?
Yeah, it's for your like tummy. Usually a girdle
Yeah.
is so there's like multiple ways. I googled it just to make sure, but they said like a girdle is kind of like Spanx. It's supposed to like hold everything in.
You need Spanx for a date, you know what I mean? This
Hmm.
makes sense. Yeah.
Or some people say that it was like a corset kind of thing, but it only went to the waist, or that it's a garter, not a garter,
Yeah.
but the thing that hooks your stockings together.
Yeah. Hmm.
But
Maybe
it's
it's kind of
not.
more, maybe it's more just like a good luck charm, so
Mhm.
she just like puts in her bra, they might like, put like a $5
Yeah.
or something in your bra. Maybe
See,
she's
I
just
was
like,
thinking it was like mistranslated and that we're supposed to be finding out she's putting on lingerie. That's what I thought was happening.
yeah, that makes more sense.
Because again, it's a man translating, and I just feel like they don't necessarily understand that
But
you
then I
can't shove everything
feel
in your bra.
I feel like if you're the type of person to be like, and like, translating this like very
Mhm.
historical famous text, that you'd be highly educated. But maybe if you're the type of person that's spending their time translating an ancient Greek text, you're not really
Mhm.
getting much like woman time to
Action, yeah.
learn these things.
Truly. Or it's like for me, it's always one of those things where they kind of seem to always think that like ancient people and ancient civilizations are very prude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they're like,
Yeah.
oh, they wouldn't be talking about, Hera and lingerie. That just wouldn't happen. But it's like the Greeks were like, so what it looked like was it transparent lingerie or like what are we talking about here? And he was like, oh, boys, not only was it transparent, like because let's talk about it. Like most of these stories, if you think about it, they're probably telling like in what setting do people like to tell stories? Usually when they have like these long travels, like if they are at war,
Mhm.
you're telling stories to pass the time. You usually tell stories
True.
while you're passing the time. So
True. Or if you're like out in like, obviously they didn't have like bars, but if you're
mhm,
kind of out at like a kind of a gathering with your boys,
mhm,
like that's kind of like, obviously the women are at home with the babies. So it's kind of
mhm.
like the men are hearing this story wherever they're like gathering. So they're kind of like, oh boys, you want to hear about Aphrodite's lingerie,
Yeah.
like
No,
Hera's
like
lingerie.
literally. I'm telling you that I think that this was mistranslated because I think that they definitely were talking more about lingerie than a girdle.
Yeah,
Okay.
makes sense.
Because also, why in ancient Greece, they might have corsets, but I don't think they would have like a girdle. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that seems like more of a, I'm obviously not an expert, like a Victorian type thing, or like before then.
Yeah.
I don't
Because
know.
isn't that the time period that because they, at that point, if my memory serves, they were kind of drawing the gods and goddesses as more like um heavier set instead of like very
Yeah.
very thin because thin was kind of seen as poor. So like I
Yeah.
don't think they would want to look thin. So I don't think
Yeah,
they would wear
yeah.
corsets.
True. That's very true.
Hera was in lingerie. You heard it here first. She had to go woo Zeus. Okay, like I love that for her.
And then in my book, it says that like before she goes off to meet Zeus, she kind of makes a pit stop at Sleep,
Mm-hmm.
who is Death's brother, which I never like heard of like
Either.
Sleep before. I didn't know that was like a Greek kind of, that's where we get the word from or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But she heads to him and she's like, hey, like, can you help me out here? Like, once we do the nasty, can you like put him asleep or whatever? And then Sleep is like, ah, no, like I did that before and I got like in loads of trouble. Like, this is your thing. Like, I'm staying out of it. And then she's like, well, what if you do it, like I'll set you up with my amazing friend Grace, like one of the Graces, and like you can have her. And he's like, fine, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
In mine, they specified that she was the youngest of the Graces, and I was like, ew.
Yeah.
But also, did your book just said that they were going to embrace the entire time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm like, just a big hug, that's all.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
all.
that's all. That's
Yeah.
totally
And
what.
she basically goes and meets Zeus, and then he's like, you, me, like right now, right here. And she's
Yeah.
like on this mountain, and he's like, oh, it's fine. I'll just cover it with like a mist, so nobody's gonna know. He's being a complete horn dog. So they just like get nasty on the mountain, and
I know.
then he just falls asleep straight after. Very relatable.
Dude, and he also
And
like
then
lists all of his exes as he's like, listen, I've slept with all of these women, had all of these offspring, but like you, wife, you're the one that I want.
I I just love like the idea of like these gods being so like human. Like I don't know your like, religious background or anything, but like the way like the Christian God is like, all perfect, all, completely flawless. I think it's more interesting having gods that are more like humans that kind of like, they mess up sometimes. They're not perfect. They have their own drama. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's
Because
interesting.
I think that too, because like if you're gonna write a story, think about it. Like you write a story and Jesus is the main character. You know he's gonna do no wrong. You know everything's gonna end up fine. You write a story. Zeus is the main character. He could be the bad guy. He could be the good guy. He could have 15 offspring in the story. Anything could happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like wild, absolutely wild. Like I think there's a reason that that's in a way that had like a lot of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
That their gods are so, I don't know if diverse is the right word, but like I mean like diversity in the sense of like their personalities. That's not the word I'm looking for, but
Yeah.
like I
No, I get what you
love
mean
that.
though. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's so
And
fun.
like I like the idea as well. I was like saying this, like this is kind of an off tangent spiritual side tangent. But I was just talking to my boyfriend today and we are saying like I think it's kind of cool the way like there's lots of different gods for different things, like, oh, if I'm having like a love problem, like, I'm gonna pray to Aphrodite. If I'm like need some wisdom, like gonna go to Athena or whatever, instead of just like this one kind of like force that's just
Mm-hmm.
supposed to like help everybody on earth for everything. You know what I
I
mean? I
know.
like the way they all have like different kind of like specialties.
Yeah. I think you kind of see that a little bit like in Catholicism. Like you can see where
The
Catholicism was
saints,
inspired
yeah.
by, yeah. So it
Mm,
was like a lot of it's inspired by like pagan traditions and like
yeah.
Greek gods and Roman gods and stuff like that. So I think,
Like I'm not Catholic, but whenever I lose something, I pray to Saint Anthony, and he has never let me down ever.
yeah,
Like, and I'm like, Anto, I know I haven't gone to church, in many years or whatever, but just help me find like my phone, and then it turns up. So
I know. I do always think there's something about that too. And I wonder if it's one of those things where it's like taking a second to like pause and breathe and be like, where is this? And then the ghost in
yeah.
your room is like, you know what I mean?
But yeah, that's why I found this chapter so entertaining, because I just love like the interactions between the gods and how they're so like relatable and kind of like, well, I mean, not too relatable. I'm making myself sound like a crazy person right now, but
Yeah.
you know what I
No,
mean.
I know what you mean. I just think it's fun that they're people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Um, so yeah, Juno's plan works. She gets Jove fully asleep, and now she basically sends Sleep over and it's like, hey, go tell Neptune he can do what he wants now, like free reign fully. And Neptune's like, heard, all cool, got it, and starts like fully imbuing the Achaeans.
Yeah. The rest of the book is just more war stuff.
More war stuff. That was the
Yeah.
most interesting chapter for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But then we get the scene where Ajax smacks Hector with a rock and like knocks him out, kind of. Like not knocks him out,
Ouch.
but he like
Gives him
seriously
like a
injures him.
concussion. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my man's not doing well. And every time we hear about Hector, I'm just like, he has a child. Like they made us care about him. And now it's
I
like
know.
we find out that Jove has like this entire plan to make sure that Achilles kills Hector. And I'm like, no.
Yeah. Oh.
So
Yeah,
then
what is that?
to book 15. So Jove is awake and he sees everything going on and he looks at Juno and he's like, yo, like, I know this is your fault. And she's like, what, whomst me? Not I. I could never. Not me. No, not I. And he's like,
He's like worth it anyway, to be honest. I don't care if it was just,
truly, he's like, I'm mad, but like, I'm not mad, you know?
I'm mad, but that lingerie is pretty nice, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
He's like, I'm mad. You know how you can make it up to me? So Juno is so Jove starts like threatening Juno. And he's like, listen, last time you did this with Hercules, my favorite thing is that they like have to refer to how many times they previously did this when they are fighting. So he's like, when you did this to Hercules last time, remember what I did? And she's like, and he's like, I hung you by your hands off of Mount Olympus and attached anvils to your feet. And I was like, wow, Jove, can you like relax a little bit?
The gods are just like brutal, even like not even like they're terrible to humans, but they're even
Mhm.
worse to each other. Like poor Prometheus, all he tried to do was give like some humans some fire. Now he's chained to a rock with like a bird eating his liver 24/7. They're
Yeah.
ruthless.
I know. They have no chill at all. Have you read the From Blood and Ash series yet?
No, I actually haven't.
Oh, please read that. Well, do you like new adult?
Yeah, yeah, I like
Okay.
everything pretty much. Yeah.
It's very, 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 very good. But without any spoilers, there's one part where they talk about how people that are like gods and stuff kind of
Hmm.
grow like they're so far away from humanity that they kind of just do whatever they want because it doesn't really matter to them because their lives are endless. And so I was kind of
Yeah.
thinking about that while you're reading this, but please go read that. The third book just came out. The writer's amazing. It's by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and they're very hefty, but like you will
What's it
binge
called again?
From Blood and Ash. You will binge
Oh
them.
yeah, yeah, no, I definitely have heard of that.
Yeah, in like 2 days. They're 500
I'm
pages.
excited.
Dude, each of them's 500 pages. I did not sleep. It
Right
was the
down.
first book that I stayed up till like 5 a.m. reading. And then I was like, oh no, I got a job. It's very, very good.
I feel like such a fraudster having like a bookstagram because I'm the slowest reader on earth. Like I probably read like 10 pages a day, if even, you know what I mean? And yeah, I always just read like I don't go with all the hype all the time. Not because I'm not like other readers, but just because like I already have so much books to read that by the time I'm actually going to find that book, it's like not, popular anymore or whatever. Like I miss all the hype. Like I've only bought like what's that one? Red, white, and royal blue, like
Mhm.
recently. And
I
that's
haven't
been
read it.
like, yeah, that was big like a while ago. And I'm like, does anybody want to talk about it now? I know everyone's like already talked about it, but
Juno's like, listen, I never told Neptune to go after the Trojans. Like, I'm not involved in that at all. Not me. I would fully support you. And like, Jove is like, listen, no, you wouldn't. Like, no, you wouldn't. The whole reason Neptune thinks it's okay to fight with me all the time is because we never agree at all. And she's like, okay, your point is. So then he's like, okay, so the thing you can do for me is go get Iris and Apollo and tell them I want to see them immediately. And she's like, can do, will do right now. So she goes and gets them and they show up and they're like, listen, what's up, Jove? What do you need? What's happening? What's popping? How's your nap? And so Iris and Apollo come and he's like, Iris, go down, talk to Neptune, tell him to back off. And so she does. Neptune, she's like talking to Neptune. She's like, listen, Jove, not too happy. And he says he will destroy you if you, keep doing this. And he's like, he can't, he could never, I'd like to see him try. And then Iris is like, is that your final response?
Poor Iris, because like she is like, she kind of delivers like messages a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
time. So she's just like the bearer of bad news and she just
Mm-hmm.
has to, she's doing everyone's dirty work for them.
Yeah, literally. I know. She's like, is that your final response though? And he's like, okay, no, just tell him I'm gonna listen. Fine, whatever. I don't want to deal with this right now. And she's like, okay, heard. Neptune not too happy. But he finally is like, fine, I'll listen to you, and I'm going to go down back into the sea. So now the Achaeans are struggling, straight struggling again. So then he sends Apollo, and he's like, listen, Apollo, I need you to go heal Hector. That's my boy for right now until Achilles gets back. But right now we want Hector to be winning. So Apollo's like heard and goes and heals Hector, and Hector's back in the fight. Like, I love the imagery of this because they're basically like acting like Hector was like dead. They're like, he's out, he's dead. And then they're like, oh wait, he's back. The funny thing to me about this book is that it really shows that they're like, they know whose side the gods are on at all times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're still like battling because they're like, well, they could change favor at any minute. So, we'll just keep going.
Yeah. It's like siblings, and then like a parent that like prefers one of the siblings, a parent that has favorites, and they're just like trying to like, they probably think that like, yeah, the gods aren't in their favor literally, but like if they win, then they'll like finally be like the favorite child, the favorite race of people.
I know. It's just funny to me because it's just like they're really trying. Like, if I knew that like the gods were on someone else's side, I'd probably stop. I'd be like,
if like literal like the actual gods in the sky, the all-powerful gods, were not on your side, like yeah. Don't waste your time.
Yeah, nope, I would not be dealing with that right now, I'll tell you that. So the Achaeans,
Yeah,
Achaeans. I was like, I looked at it and I immediately forgot how to say it. So the Achaeans.
I have to keep writing it out phonetically.
No, I should, but I'm not. I don't know why. But they're gonna go and they're gonna try and persuade Achilles again because they're like, listen, we need you, boy. We need you bad. And then we're on to book 16. So Patroclus is now with Achilles. And they're like, hey, hear me out. Would you come, because you're being really cruel right now, you're being kind of mean, and we want to win. And Achilles is like, listen, you already know what, like, my opinion on this, okay? Like, I'm not going. So then Patroclus is like, okay, hear me out. Can I borrow your armor and I'll go? And then they think it's you, but then you don't have to go. And Achilles is like, okay, fine. You can go, just wear my armor, come back. I want my armor back. And he's like, yeah.
You better not stretch it. Like, yeah. I'm like, just like my sister, I'm like, you better not stretch it. Better come back the same.
Literally, you're like, you better not stain it. If you rip it, you're done for. So sends Patroclus, and he's like, go scare the Trojans, fine, whatever. And Achilles grabs some forces and send him with Patroclus so that, they can do this whole battle. So, but Achilles stays behind because he's not into it. People are dying, and then Hector kills Patroclus. And then we got book 17. So in book 17, they're trying to take Patroclus' body back to Achilles so they could be like, look, your friend's dead. Like, we really need you. Mm-hmm. But Hector takes Achilles' armor and he's like, this is funny, I'm gonna wear it. Like, what if I just like wore it? And puts it on. So everyone's like, basically he's acting like he killed Achilles without actually killing Achilles because he's wearing his armor. And I was like, that's a false trophy and you know it, buddy.
Yeah. That's some insecurity if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, literally. He's basically like doing like who's got it bigger, you know what I mean? With this.
Yeah.
He's like, wow, this
it's like when people buy followers or something, mm-hmm. It's like, that's not real. Like, that other people know that's not real too. Yeah.
Like, I'm imagining him being like, wow, this armor like barely fits just because my muscles are so big. Like one of those moments. It's like, wow, I really think an Achilles needs to like work out. Like, if I flex, it's gonna fall off. So I just gotta really hold it in here. So Jove, not happy. He's like, this is not what the plan is. Like, this is not what we're supposed to be doing. Achilles is my favorite, so yikes. But he's just like, wait till Achilles can strike you down. That's all we're waiting for here. But they're really having difficulty trying to get Achilles, particularly the Pat's body.
I'm always like,
I know. It's like in my head, I was like, I got it. And then I'm like, but they're really having some difficulty getting Pat's body back. They're like literally fighting over this body, and they're like, one person's able to carry it, and then they get like attacked, and they have to drop the body and like defend. Someone else picks the body up. It's kind of horrifying when you think about it, a little morbid. But they're not able to get this body back at all. So they tell someone, they're like, hey, go tell Achilles that we need him to come collect his friend's body out of the battlefield. Like, we cannot get it back. In that moment, I'm trying to figure out how close is Achilles? Because like I thought this entire time that he's on an island and they're sailing over to it. But like if they're in the middle of battle and they're like, you need to go get him right now. Like he has to be pretty close.
He has to be near.
Yeah. I guess there's something to like, I think the Greek islands are pretty close together. Like you
they are.
kind of bunny hop.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone there once. Macton was like, oh, yes, I'm so familiar.
Me with my 1 month in London. Oh, I know everything.
But yeah, I think there's like a lot of like small islands. I especially imagine like back then, before like climate change and, sea levels rising and all that.
Yeah. But, yeah, so they're probably pretty close, and he'd probably just like bunny hop over there. He's like, yeah, and you can see like Achilles standing, and you can like see him on the horizon, and they're like, you come over here, and Achilles is like, no.
Telescope.
Yeah, I want to imagine that. I want it to be like not a day's worth of travel. I want it to be like 15 minutes of like Achilles just standing on the shore, watching the boat get closer and closer, and he's like, what are they gonna ask me now? Like, I've been here for 5 years at this point. Just watch every day I wake up, eat my toast, and you can hear like distant battle cries. Like, I want like a scenic view of like Achilles, like on the beach, just, in his like Hawaiian print shirt, cargo pants, eating like buttered toast in one hand as he's like standing on the shore, one hand on hip, one hand holding toast. He's eating it, and you can just hear like the sound like screaming, like all this in the background. He's like, oh, what a beautiful day on this tropical island. He's like takes a bite of toast.
It's like that meme with the dog, in the house that's like surrounded by fire, and he's like, everything's fine. That's what I imagine it like.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, probably though. So that's all we've got for this week's episode. Where can all the people of the internet find you, find your podcast? You want to tell us a little bit about your podcast? I'm sure they heard it previously, but like still nice little refresher. Yeah.
So I'm Jade from Dublin, as you mentioned before several times in these episodes, and my podcast is Book Podcast, but I kind of focus on the story behind books, like where authors got their inspiration and kind of like the historical context. So you can find me about a book, one word, on all the places where you're listening to this, and then on Instagram I'm aboutabook.podcast.
Yeah, and I will put show links. I'll put them in all the links in the show notes so you can easily get them. It's going to be great. But we will catch you all in the next episode where we find out, does Achilles show up? Does he actually shell out the 15-minute boat ride over to the island? Because apparently they're that close. But we'll find out that and probably much more. Lots more death in the next episode. Bye.
Definitely. Bye.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Barely Bookish podcast. I really appreciate everybody who's, hanging out, listening, all that fun stuff. But if you want to catch more live content, not more live content because this isn't live, but if you want to catch some live content, please consider going and joining us on twitch.tv. I am considering doing some productivity streams and things of that nature, so I will be trying to figure out how to do that soon. So if you, are one of those people that kind of likes to have a little buddy to work with, I am hoping to incorporate that soon. So hopefully I will figure out how to do that, and then we can all, work together and hang out and meme. I don't know. But yeah, so lots of fun new things happening. I'm very, very excited about it, but I don't really have a whole bunch to fill you in on. There's not a whole lot happening on this end, but if you want to check me out on anything, I'm at Barely Bookish on literally everything, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Our theme song was by Raphael Crux. Our logo was designed by my little sibling Sarah, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye!